Hello everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Counsel Code, a podcast series from Volody. I'm Milind Kapile, VP of Sales. Volody is a leading legal tech software company started in 2016, and our solution portfolio includes contract lifecycle management, litigation management, and insider trading software. This podcast series aims to offer the legal community a valuable insights through the conversation with the top legal expertise. We'll explore their professional journey, learnings, challenges, and strategies, as well as their viewpoints. We believe that this series will serve as a rich resource for our audience. Today we have with us Smitha Chandrashekar. Welcome, Smitha.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Smitha is a law graduate and has around 20 years of rich experience in the field of law. She is currently acting as a director of legal for Harman International, a global leader in connected car technology, audio and lighting solutions. Smitha started her legal career with Norton Rose Group Singapore, and then she has been working with UPS, a courier shipping company, as an attorney, a legal counsel for Hitachi Data System, and with IQVIA as legal director. Smitha has earned multiple credentials and certification in environmental sustainability, data privacy, and leadership from the reputable institutes. She has been recognized as one of the best general counsel, a powerful woman in IP, and legal counsel of the year. Smitha's specialties are core competency in agreement, drafting, vetting, negotiation, general corporate matters, cross-border transactions, merger acquisitions, and corporate governance. Smitha firmly believes in building trust, resolving disputes, writing pervasively to achieve the positive outcome for the team, organization, and for the clients. Thank you, Smitha, for taking time out to join the podcast and looking forward to a great conversation.
Pleasure, and look forward to the conversation too, Milind.
Thank you. So, Smitha, my first question is, how did you get into the field of law? And can you share a few notable experiences, challenges, and the processes, changes you brought into while working with the organization like UPS, SDS, Harman, and IQVIA?
Sure, thanks for that. I think it's a very good starting question. So, the field of law actually happened by accident. Basically, I was a science student in my +1 and +2, and my dad just happened to ask one day, "Why don't you do law?" And I was like, "Yeah, up for it, no problem." And so that started my law journey. So it was a good, 5 years. And then I moved to Singapore, where I actually started my career.
Okay.
So it was quite challenging from day one because, back in the day, we weren't really exposed to a lot of things which today's youngsters actually aren't exposed to, right? So with my career beginning in Singapore, and that too with a UK law firm, first of all, it was a very humble beginning for me, if I may say so, because, you're expected to have a certain standard when you sort of start working with a big firm like that, right? So, and first of all, I was hired as a paralegal in the aviation finance team. And trust me, I'm being very, very, open and honest here. I had no clue that, a branch of law called aviation finance existed in the first place, right? So that was my, humble beginning, actually. And then small things like, before drafting an email, what sort of language needs to be, kept in mind, and, how do you exactly interact with the client and with the internal partners and different associates and things like that. So it, the very basics, right? Because people like me weren't really exposed to all of these things, the so-called soft skills. So everything had to be picked up on the go. This is, of course, mind you, other than the actual legal journey itself, right? So, and then, if you've seen my entire, professional journey, I've been in various industries, switched a lot of roles, and that's what kind of keeps me going, because for me, I like to experiment with different things. That's how I am as a person. And I think that kind of, gives you that edge, right? See, because that's how you stand out as a leader. And that's how you stand out as a, general counsel who kind of brings in that experience, which probably the other peers may or may not have. So I think that's the distinguishing factor. It starts from there. And also, I think the various things, the other things that shaped my journey are, of course, other than, the industries which are, really crucial for any lawyer's growth. It's the actual working of that particular organization itself, right? See, because some are very matured organizations, whereas some are not. And also in terms of the culture, because the tone at the top is really important, Milan, if I may say so, because if the management is like gung ho about something, then you're kind of required to adapt yourself and make sure that you get that right. Whereas in
Right.
certain organizations, the management kind of takes a very different approach, or a very relaxed kind of an approach.
Okay.
It differs. The culture actually differs. In terms of experiences itself, I think my first assignment as an in-house role, not the first assignment. I mean, one of the initial things that I was asked to do was asked to draft a contract from scratch, because I had joined UPS recently, and then there were these two animals, one rhino and one elephant, which had to be transported from Africa to Indonesia, right? So what
Okay.
do you do? What sort of risks are involved? So it started from there,
Okay.
and I've come a long way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting example, actually. I mean, that is UPS has been the shipping and delivery company. I think that is the example. Could have basically initially example and exposure. It will definitely would have been given a lot of exposure actually to the
Yeah,
how do you draft a contract. That is the very beginning for any lawyer, right?
exactly.
And you had different roles actually. I mean, so it's very important that how do you tackle the first 90 days because every organization is different. I mean, you have worked in different industries as well, UPS, and then you have got it actually into like other company like HDS. Again, these are IT companies. So how do you tackle all these first 90 days actually? I mean, anything you want to share?
Sure. I mean, that's a brilliant question, actually, because first 90 days is where you kind of establish a rapport, and kind of, it's like either you make it or break it,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
So, and especially for a GC, simply it's because it's a position of trust,
Yeah.
right? And it's all about relationship building and all of that. I think the initial journey, I was probably just working towards impressing my seniors, right? Whereas today, it's not the case,
Yeah.
because it's not about my technical expertise. It's about what approach do I take, and how I manage my stakeholders effectively, because it's not just one stakeholder, right? Because you're looking at all sorts of functional heads who are kind of looking up to you. And by the way, on this note, I just to like to narrate an anecdote, right? In one of my previous companies, the HR head sort of called one day as usual, and he just started laughing. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why are you laughing? So he's like, it's very simple, Smitha. Nobody comes to you with a good news or a happy news. We all approach you only when there is a
Problem
problem,
occurs.
right?
Correct. Correct.
Right. So that's what a general counsel's role is all about. See, because people have exhausted all the other options, and that's how they've come to you. And why does that happen? It's simply because you've kind of over a period of time built that trust and given them the confidence that, hey, you know what, no matter what, I'm here for you. I will hold your hand and make sure that everything is set right. So I think the first 90 days, first my priority would be to make sure that I've built that rapport. And I think in order to build the rapport, very basic thing, show up in person, have personal
Yeah.
meetings,
That's
take the
interesting.
initiation, the various businesses to understand what exactly it is that they do, and also gaining insights as to what the competitors are doing, how
Yeah.
the industry on the whole is functioning, and also thirdly, from a legal perspective, I tend to reach out to the other legal heads or in the similar industry just to gain their insights, because if they're already on board, they would have tried and tested things. So for me to talk to them and get that rich experience, I think that's the other thing. Fourth, last but not the least, check the pulse on the floor, be it your team, be it the organization, or be it even globally, right? I mean, you need to have an in depth understanding of what it is the company is all about and how you can actually make things better. Right. So I think
Correct.
this would kind of be my priorities for the first 90 days, and the
Yeah.
actual execution starts after that period.
Yeah, that's very interesting point you made actually. I mean, understanding your own business and plus understanding the competition. That is something very new to us also, and that is very something very useful insights, and also taking the help from your peers also. That is also very important because in the similar industry, that I think these are some more important tips actually from this question answers actually we have received. Thank you. And again, related to the question, again, legal is always been seen many times. Actually, I'm being a sales guy. Legal has always been an obstacle, right? So again, how did you basically you work internally with the different stakeholders and the CXO levels like sales, finance, and procurement HR team? And again, that's again, if you can give some example, that will also help.
Sure, Milind. I think, there are different kinds of stakeholders, right? And, the first thing that I learned at the very initial stages of my career is I will never say no, right? Because that is your starting point. And the minute you give out that negative vibe, I think things just go down south, right? So that's not the answer which your business partners are looking at. See, because I think you wouldn't agree with me that today legal is seen as a business partnering or a business enabling function rather than somebody who kind of puts a full stop for everything, right? So we try to work around things. Maybe what I have learned over a period of time is if there is a sticky point, I tend to kind of talk to the stakeholders in depth to understand more about the issue, right? Because maybe at the superficial level, I or even the business guys may be missing certain crucial points. And once I've done that, see, if there are maybe like 5 sticky points, even if I manage to resolve 2 points in that particular meeting, I will consider that itself as a big win, right? Because you can always go back, reflect on what was discussed, gain insights, and also talk to a few other people, maybe my mentors or my peers in the industry or even my seniors in the organization, just to get different perspectives, have your own viewpoints as well, and then go back and connect with that particular stakeholder the following day, so that you go in with a fresh mind and have a fresh start. And then resolving the 3 other points becomes much easier, right? And it's also all these things like lean, agile, and all of that. Maybe in the legal world we don't apply them directly, but breaking down things at any point, I think that's the key to work for towards a win-win kind of an approach, right? That's one part of it. The other part of it is certain issues may or may not be under legal's control totally. For example, if it's a contractual liability, kind of issue which is 100% legal, then I call the shots. Everything is done. But there are certain other elements. For example, if it's a cross-border deal that we are dealing with, then the psychology of the opposite parties and also the understanding of their culture, and in fact sometimes there are language barriers also. Maybe what I understand is totally different from what they were trying to express, right? So these are some of the nuances that I think one kind of picks up over a period of time, and we kind of get to the finish line once all these small things are kind of tied in, right? The other thing is also focusing on sometimes, not all the times, which is why I said focusing on the things sometimes which you think is of least important can actually be a game changer, right? Because you tend to kind of overlook certain things which may actually be really important for you in that particular deal. So this is another thing that I learned, right? And also the other thing is, if certain things are working in certain way, question yourself, question your peers, and question your stakeholders. Why is it that you have to go down only on route A? Why can't you take route B? I mean, let's give it a shot, because there's always things can be done differently. That's when you actually start to see, when you compare the two different approaches, right? So I think a combination of all of this, Milind, over a period of time has helped me work with different stakeholders to manage things effectively. And last but not the least, prioritizing actually really helps, because if it's a customer related issue, then definitely that will be my top priority. If it is something else, maybe that can kind of take a backseat for the time being. So prioritizing really helps.
Yeah, that's a really insightful tips actually for not only for us but also for the legal community as well. Okay, So we are seeing basically you are been working actually. Cross border with teams also, and so how did you basically work with these people? As you said, give us some tips are there. You already mentioned that, but again, some of the business skills basically you think basically they should acquire. And how do you work with a team environment? Because sometimes working itself in your organization teams it's found it difficult. Again, working globally with a different team, how did you basically achieve that milestone? Actually, working with these different team members.
One thing is, as a lawyer, I think all of us have this innate ability of kind of gauging things and understanding the opposite party, right? You really need to pay attention. So I think, because it may be small things like observing somebody's body language, because most of the times it so happens that the person is actually telling you something, but the body language isn't really going with that flow.
Correct.
These are the kind of certain nuances that we need to pick up and just be quick in understanding, right? Because the minute you get the cue, your conversation will automatically change, right? Because once you sense that something is different, you kind of drive the negotiation or whatever the case may be in a different direction, right? So first of all, pay attention. Second thing is be mindful of other people's viewpoints, right? Because often I think we ignore this soft skill portion because you just want to prove your point. I think most lawyers actually are out there just to make sure that they are heard and their point is actually kind of goes down. But I think as you age and as you also kind of get seasoned in this field, there are these other things that you kind of tend to notice, right? And thirdly, I think most importantly in terms of the actual legalese as such, right, if I may say so, for example, if I'm working on a privacy related issue, right? So generally the approach that we follow is, okay, GDPR has set the high standard, so as long as we are compliant with that, rest doesn't matter. Sorry, that doesn't work all the time, right? Because there are certain countries where maybe in a particular area of privacy, that particular country's law is stricter than that of GDPR. So why are we missing out on these kind of nuances? I think detailed oriented approach is another thing which I think even your stakeholders will appreciate, because that is the value that you are bringing to the table as a legal professional, right? If not, I think if it's like just categorizing everything as, like, for example, in this case we spoke about GDPR, that I think any lawyer can do, right? And thirdly, everything doesn't require my presence, right? In the sense that if I'm confident that a particular team member can actually handle that particular issue, it's just that I'm trusting that individual to do so, plus giving quality advice to the management, and also in the long run giving the confidence to the team that yes, your efforts are being appreciated, which is the reason why you're being pushed to the next level. So I think you need to think in terms of 360 degrees. So a combination of all of this, Milind, has kind of helped me get where I am today.
That's interesting again. So Smitha, technology of course playing a lot of major role actually into the legal field now. So how did you encourage the adoption of the technology in your organization currently or previously also? And how did you enable your team also basically to use the technology?
Right. So I think, a few years ago, we kind of, in one of the organizations that I work for, we tried, adopting technology for NDAs, right? Because that's the most basic document, and even the junior lawyers actually don't want to spend much time on that. So the approach that we took is, we kind of, got the software which could be used globally. We got a hold of 2-3 players, because back then there weren't as many players in the market as there are today, right? So we started with that, and how we went about doing is that we kind of took this approach of having 3 kind of backup boilerplate provisions for the NDA. For example, if there is a particular confidentiality definition which is basically our organization's priority, then if that doesn't go down too well, what's the backup plan, right? So the option number 2 should be thrown to the opposite party. If that also doesn't work, what's the option number 3? So taking a step-by-step approach kind of eliminated most of the things, and the actual lawyers got to do only the things which were like really
Correct.
really
Okay.
sticky, right? So
Okay.
that's how we got there, and that was the beginning.
Okay.
Second thing is, technology is about adoption of legal related tech, right? That's one
Correct.
part. Second thing is, in your organization, whatever technology is available, how can we extend that to the legal team, right?
Okay.
So that was the second part that we
Okay.
worked on with the existing tools, because it's cost effective, and
Okay.
also it's easier to manage because most of the team members have already used that particular technology, right? For example,
Okay.
your SharePoint to, I don't know, I mean, whatever tools that's available, you kind of can make do with certain number of things like that. The third thing that we then started to focus on was, the training itself, because you
Okay.
have all this technology, but you can't expect the legal team in particular to be a master of
Correct.
everything, right? So
Correct.
I think training is something that I really believe in, not just technology but even otherwise, because the more you train people, the easier your
Absolutely.
actual work becomes, right? So that
Absolutely.
was the third part. And today in this age, I think we've got a very robust global CLM tool which
Okay.
is taking care not just contracts and NDAs, but also litigation, the whole invoicing aspects, and then we've got a specialized other tool for compliance management as well.
Okay. Okay.
In for our company alone in India itself, there are about 3,000 compliances that we have to
Correct.
adhere to,
Correct.
and it's humanly impossible for us to manage, right?
Correct.
So being responsible for compliance, that is how we kind of track. I run the reports every now and then, and if there is something that I think needs immediate attention, then I reach out to the respective functional heads, and that's how it's kind of managed. And last but not the least, in terms of signatures, I think DocuSign and all the other good tools that we have today have really made all our lives very comfortable. But having said that, again, at least in a country like India, certain age-old things like lease agreements and things like that, you still need a proper stamp and a physical
Correct.
signature and
Yeah.
things like that. So that and legal research tools, right? That's the other new technology which most of the companies are
Okay.
adopting. So this is my take on the technology.
That's interesting. I mean, you already had these platforms available to make the life easier for the lawyer. That's good to hear. So AI has been a buzzword actually, and it's not a buzzword actually. It could be, many people are saying that's become a necessity.
Yeah.
So again, it's a hot topic. So what do you think basically the AI impacting the legal jobs in next 5 years, and do you think basically it's a opportunity or a threat?
Right. So before I answer that, I will take the example of the actual IT world, right? In relation to AI, because IT, I mean, the tech folks are the people who create all these things, right? So now, going by that example, people in tech actually create this great technology called AI, right? So once it's kind of created and once it kind of gets going, I mean, everything is hunky dory, right? But then there are a few challenges which arise. So the tech folks who actually work on the challenges, reap the benefits because they are in great demand at one point, right? Then after you've gone past that stage, I think come the hackers and the bad guys as such, right? So because once the technology is there, then people are also thinking about how humans can actually defeat the technology. So your hackers and people like that kind of take over this AI world, and they kind of contribute their bit. Then last but not the least, in that whole tech world come people like me, the lawyers, right? How to kind of contain these so-called crimes and hacking and unethical activities, and also think in the whole chain where legal kind of constantly plays a role everywhere, right? Now the use of AI, back in the legal field, right? If based on that example of the tech world that I gave, I think in the legal world as well, Milind, well, AI technology definitely, at least as of today, is not new because many lawyers are already making use of it. Whether there is going to be a job loss or not, just like all the other lawyers say, either for it or against it, I'm not going to answer it that way, because that is the sole purpose of me giving this tech example, right? Maybe certain lawyers who actually work with the technology and kind of or back off because AI can already do their jobs, rather than focusing on areas like this, I would tend to look at more positively as to
Yeah.
how the other set of lawyers who kind of help overcome the challenges arising from AI technology. I
Hmm.
think those jobs will still be in demand. Maybe
Yeah.
the most mundane lawyers may kind of lose their jobs, but then if they constantly upgrade themselves, make themselves relevant to the market, they can still stay ahead of the curve and they can still remain in the game, right? So AI can either challenge you or defeat you. So why don't you take it otherwise and see how you can challenge the technology and how you can become a better and effective lawyer. I think that's my 2 cents on the whole AI and technology aspect.
Yeah, that's true actually. I mean, AI has always been an enabler, and
Yeah,
it's been said basically, if you're not going to use AI is going to replace you. That's been said. So
exactly.
that's very interesting. I seen basically a lot of companies actually have started using the AI enterprise wide, and
Right.
legal is also one of the department actually who has taken lead actually using this technology for a lot of things related to right from contract drafting to till post contract execution. Also basically we are seeing basically use of the AI actually into litigation management as well, where it can
Right.
provide you the basically a sort of summary of the cases. It will give you some predictions actually about what are the cases basically which you have basically similar type of cases which were existing, and what type of judgment actually has been delivered on that. So this type of all basically you don't have to refer the books, actually everything is actually available. As a chatbot or AI it's themselves can provide you all sorts of information to you. So in such a situation, do you think basically the role of the outside counsel is going to reduce, or it's they're going to still present? I mean, they're still going to remain as it is. What do you think on this?
I would think, that the presence of external counsel will reduce drastically, because that is the whole reason why in-house legal departments are actually investing in technology, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Milind, like you rightly said, I think today, because of the litigation, I mean CLM tool, most of the in-house counsels kind of do, majority of the work in-house simply because they have the tools effectively, right? And secondly, gone are those days where you just kind of go with what the external counsel opines, right?
Okay,
Because you have the methods already available within your own department to
correct.
kind of make sure you kind of do your research, and you are in fact more thorough than your external counsel. So it is kind of challenging them, in other words, right? But having said that, I think in order for a company to kind of make sure that their case is actually litigated, and you still need people doing that for you, because
Correct,
they are
correct.
basically your kind of extended arm. But what I can say is the collaboration becomes much more meaningful, and there is definitely quality, and you're also at the same time setting the bar high,
Yeah.
from what you can expect from your external counsel, right? So that kind of makes it, I think it's a straightforward answer that the dependability on the external counsel is kind of reducing. At least I have seen that, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
most of the other people will agree. But other than that, I mean, I don't think anybody can replace an external counsel, because you still need people outside of your
Correct.
organization to run the show for you.
That's a really good insights.
Thank you.
It's been a very stressful and hectic. So, what principle do you follow in your professional and personal career, and what strategy do you employ to maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Sure, I'm a sports person basically, right?
Interesting.
So
Uh-huh.
have been, and I think as they say, once a sports person, always a sports person, right? So I kind of tend to work out 4 days a week, right?
Okay.
Minimum, right? I
Hmm.
mean, no matter what, and dancing is something that kind of comes naturally, I guess, to a
Okay.
certain extent.
Interesting.
So yeah, that kind of really keeps me on my toes.
Hmm.
Second thing is, I love traveling. So
Okay.
the minute I get time off, I kind of just take off, right? No matter where, and whoever is available. It's not like, I have to go with this person, or I have to go with this friend, or I have to go with my family. No, nothing like that,
Okay.
no hassles. And over a period of time, one thing that I have started doing is when I'm on, personal time off, that means no work. right? I don't even look at my phone. To the extent possible, I do that. But if somebody is calling me constantly, 3 or 4 times, then I know, okay, it is actually, see, because ultimately I've realized that we are not doctors, right? I mean, if we don't answer the phone, that doesn't mean somebody is going to die. So that's the, worst thing that can happen to mankind. And fortunately, we are not in that profession. So I think the rest can wait. So this is the approach that I have taken. Third thing is, I think spending quality time, with your loved ones is equally important. And also in an organizational kind of a setup, it's good for you to kind of take your team out from time to time to make sure that you're giving them that importance, and also letting them know that you care. Because I think today emotional intelligence, human kind of aspects, also are equally important, just like your professional growth, right? So I think these human elements should never be forgotten in this whole value, right? And also, last but not the least, it's also about spending some good time with the business folks, so that outside of office hours, whenever you get the time, because that is where you kind of understand the people better, right? If you don't have that personal connect, then I think working kind of becomes a little tougher. But if you have that, and if you know what personality he or she has, and what are her likes and dislikes, and how he or she kind of thinks, it becomes easier. So I think overall, I think I would tend to focus on all these areas, Milind.
That's really interesting. Understanding another person, it's very important aspect of the life. Understanding its priority. So taking an interest in other persons, basically, that's how you can build a relationship. I always experience in my life as well. That's very interesting experience you have shared. And spiritually also comes actually in a big way, actually, in personal life also, because you have to do some meditation and do some yogas also. That's also reduce stress in a big way, actually, in your personal hectic life.
Correct.
Okay, so we have come to a last question. So what advice would like to give the young professionals who want to start their career in legal field, and what are the skills and experience do you believe are crucial for the success?
Sure. So first things first, I think today opportunities are aplenty. So I think, first of all, the youngsters just need to figure out what it is that they want out of their profession or their life. Clarity, is of utmost importance. From there, if once you have clarity, of course, and it's again a catch-22 kind of a situation when you are starting your career, right? See, because you need to have clarity, but at the same time, one can always argue that if I'm not experienced, or if I'm not worked or tried out different areas of law, how will I even know? So I think that is something which differs from individual to individual. So do what suits you best. That's the advice that I'd like to give. Second thing is discipline. It's all about being persistent, being disciplined, right? If that's not there, then I'm sorry, nothing is going to come around. Nothing is being served on a silver platter, right? Third thing is honesty and gratitude, right? Because integrity comes, should be there in a legal professional, because that's what you're kind of valued for. Because if you are selling yourself for unwanted reasons, and you become a bad example, then that's not, what's going to help you in the long run, right? And last but not the least, young kids out there need to have patience, because it's like, you can't become rich and famous overnight. It takes, credible amount of effort, a little bit of luck, and also the, consistency in your performance, which is going to get you to the top, right? And also have your eyes and ears open, because you'll never know where the calling will come from one fine day for you to, have that big step in your career moving forward, right? So I think these are some of the most simple and basic things, but trust me, this is going to, give them a big break someday.
Yeah, wonderful, actually. Fantastic, actually. I mean, these are very important words and should be useful, actually, for our audience. So thank you, Smitha, for sharing your valuable insights today. Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up?
It's been a pleasure, Milind, talking to you, and I'd like to thank you and the entire Volody team for having given me this opportunity to express myself. And general message out there: the world needs more kindness and smiles. So be kind and keep smiling. Thank you.
That's interesting. Great. Thank you very much, Smitha, for your time.